Hello everyone and welcome to Fifth North. I'm Demir and today I'm back on the 2023 Triumph Rocket 3R to discuss 5 things that I really like about this bike. Alright, welcome back. So first and foremost, if I have to follow these guys for the rest of this ride, I'm gonna there we go. Okay, he's passing them, that's good. Maybe I can go next, here we go. Yeah, I mean, you gotta at least do the speed limit if you're gonna be on a wide open road like this. Speaking of wide open roads, welcome back. I'm back out on this beautiful 2023 Triumph Rocket 3R. Shout out again to Triumph for letting me borrow this bike for about a month now. Yes, it is super cold out, road conditions are not the best, and lighting is pretty terrible for filming, but we've just kind of gone through a weird Texas snowstorm, which we normally don't, so it's kind of limited my options as far as going out and recording, so here we are. I'm not going to let anything stop me from enjoying this ride and enjoying this bike that I've now put a couple hundred miles on. With that being said though, I'm also out in the middle of nowhere. I decided to mix it up a little bit today and not go the route that I normally go, and I'm not sure if this is really cool and I'm enjoying it, or if it's literally the middle of nowhere, hills have eyes kind of a thing going on. I guess we'll see how the road goes. But with that being said, during those couple hundred miles that I put on the bike, I have come up with a list of, well, really many things that I like about this bike, but I did narrow it down to the top 5, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Man, this road is kind of bumpy. We'll see how this goes. Alright, so number 1, I absolutely love the power on this bike. 165 horsepower, yeah, another big bump, is really great. It's a great amount of power, especially considering that this bike is right around 650 pounds, so it is a little bit heavy, but when you combine 165 horsepower with 163 foot-pounds of torque, you realize that this thing, though heavy and though bigger than most sports bikes, it is definitely not a slouch. It'll do 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, and it does get to a top speed of 145, so I think the key here is the torque. Lots of bikes. Yeah, this road is kind of gross. Alright, let's try that again. So I wanted to get off that kind of wet, crazy patch there. Alright, so the key here is the torque, right? A lot of bikes can claim high horsepower, but high torque is not as common. The feeling that you get from a 2.5 liter 3-cylinder engine roaring to life is completely unmatched. And with all the torque, it just seems like you have all the go that you need, regardless of what gear you're in, regardless of what revs you're at. It just goes. This engine is just simply a blast. And honestly, it sounds really good too, considering that it's a stock exhaust. Most bikes don't sound good in stock form. This one really does. I can only imagine just how loud it screams with a good aftermarket exhaust. So that's number 1 on my list, the power of this bike. Alright, so number 2 on the list, I just mentioned that this bike is fairly large. Like I said, it's right around 650 to 700 pounds depending on the configuration, and overall it's fairly long too. It's got an overall length of almost 100 inches, which if you do the math there, that's almost 8.5 feet, and coming from a bike that was almost 2 feet shorter and about half the weight, I really expected the Rocket to handle terribly. My honest vision was this big boat on 2 wheels, and honestly I was really wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, this bike is heavy and long, but it definitely handles like a much smaller and lighter bike. I envisioned that it would be more like a cruiser, and it really doesn't handle like that. It's really light on its feet, considering how large everything is. I know a lot of this has to do with the way that the engine is mounted, and so Triumph did a really brilliant job in making the Rocket 3 handle way better than it should, especially when you consider the actual size of the bike. Alright, let's talk about number 3. So, I love how this bike looks. I mean, come on, it's just cool. I mean, where do I start, right? From the side, you've got this massive engine just staring at you, and it's beautifully accented by these header pipes that lead to a great looking exhaust. From the front, you've got a massive grille, which lets you know there's a big engine right behind there that is trying to keep cool. And then obviously from the back, you've got a 240/50/16 tire that is on a 7-inch wide wheel. Honestly, when you see a rear tire that size, it lets you know that this bike means business. So, you know, you pretty much know that you're going to be fighting for grip the whole time. Yeah, I'm definitely in the middle of nowhere here. Let's just, you know what, let's pull off and take a random turn, and famous last words, let's see how it goes here. That's kind of a rough, alright, here we go. Hopefully this road gets a little bit better. It's been kind of choppy. And then obviously in the front you've got large dual rotor Brembo brakes, you've got LED lighting, You know, it's got a low-looking seat, wide handlebars, you know, single-sided swing arm that, you know, really just accentuates the large black wheels and the tire combo. And then, you know, everything about it just looks really, really cool, and it just works really well together. So just a beautiful bike, and honestly, it was a conversation starter just about everywhere that I went. Alright, so let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is this bike is shaft driven. So if you guys haven't noticed, or if you didn't know, adding to the cool look of the Rocket, as I mentioned in number 3, is the fact that this bike is shaft driven, and that's just cool looking. I mean, first of all, you've got a single-sided swing arm, which is beautiful to begin with, but then it's complemented by a metal shaft housing rather than a chain, and that just kind of grabs your attention. Now, outside of just looking cool, the shaft drive has other benefits too, right? So all of that torque and all that power, it just feels more connected, because you're not waiting on anything, right? Like every single horse, every single foot-pound of torque just feels instantaneously transferred to that back wheel. So that shaft drive really does make a difference. And if you've never ridden a bike that's shaft driven, I definitely say check it out. It's kind of a different feeling, and quite frankly, I really like it. So another benefit to the 2023 Rocket 3R is that it's shaft driven versus a chain drive. Yeah, this road is just kind of strange. I mean, literally, it's like the middle of nowhere. Trees on both sides, and I can't tell if it's just wet or if it's kind of icy. So I'm just gonna kind of keep it pretty chill and pretty straight on this. Like I said, we just had a snowstorm recently, so these roads are kind of, yeah, not the greatest condition. But anyway, let's go ahead and round this list out here. So talking about number 5, what I like about the Triumph Rocket 3R is that this bike is just high-end. So Triumph clearly thought about this bike and the fact that it planned to charge about 25-ish thousand for it. So they made sure that they did it, you know, justice, right? So from features that it has, for example, the hidden passenger foot pegs, I think that's one of the coolest designs ever. One of the cleanest looking passenger foot pegs that I've ever seen, and I think more bikes should try to imitate this design. You know, internally wired handlebars, all LED lighting. You know, it definitely has some high-end components here. And you know, these were decisions that were made around, you know, classing the bike up, and I appreciate that from Triumph. You know, additionally, look at the suspension components, you look at the brakes, at the electronics. You know, it definitely received some nice upgrades, and overall the bike just looks great. You know, it has some really clear, thought-out features that place it well above your average bike, both from a ability, looks, and features standpoint, right? And then the Rocket 3, you know, in both the GT and the R configurations, it's definitely a head turner, right? I felt like no matter where I went, it started conversations. Every time I pulled over, somebody wanted to ask questions about it. So I just love the way, not only the way that it looks, but also kind of the level of bike that it sets, right? It's definitely not an entry-level bike, so definitely that's another thing that I appreciate about the Rocket 3. Alright, so those are my top 5 things I like about the 2023 Triumph Rocket 3R. Honestly, overall, just a fantastic bike. I really enjoyed it, completely fun. And, you know, let me know your thoughts on the Rocket 3, right? Go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. And if you like this video, or if you think the Rocket 3 is dope, hit that like button for me. And if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button as well. And thank you all for watching. I'll catch y'all in the next video. I'm going to get lost. I just keep churning randomly. Anyway, peace.